Oh, people, this is Ryder here to review the Ultraman Blazar DX Blazar Stone EX selection. So I guess this is the annual premium Bandai set for Ultraman gimmick items where they just title it EX selection. What is Arc gonna do? Because everything's gonna be premium. So what EX selection will they have? So as you can see here, the black, the box is in this monotone color because they always do this. We have Blazar right here, Blazar Galaxy, and everything whitewashed. As you can see, the featured stones here because you can't see them, so we would just mention them when we actually get to it. The logo, EX selection. Again, in typical premium Bandai Ultraman-ness, there's no tape, and, you know, that's kind of it. Is there anything more I had to say? I don't think so. So here we have the entire lineup of the set, to which we will just go through them one by one. I did not look up the names of the kaijus because that was on my other phone. That is fun. I only remember one. But anyways, before we get through the lineup, we have to get through the main thing that they wanted to advertise with this set because it got released alongside the die-cast Blazar Stone set, which are the Blazar Stone stands, to which they're kind of in similar vein towards the Ultra Metal stands, but you know, black and such. So you just take many Blazar Stone. This is Gashapon Garamon, just because I randomly took out Gashapon 4 out, and just change it to Loyo, and just, you know, sit it in like so, because of this curve, and rotate it all around, which is pretty neat and such. Basically, they kind of share the same purpose. You can literally put any, you can try to put any round thing on here. It just has to work. It's like an Avatar gear. You just need to balance it. This one was sitting on here, so it kind of works. I don't know why it's not working anymore, but it's whatever. I don't have an Ultra Metal out because I haven't filmed those yet. But you do get You get 12 of them. They are packed on the side like this. I don't think I've ever taken out all of them. I don't think I've ever taken all of them out. I think this was the only one I've ever taken out. I appreciate it, but this is not the set to do so. Now I have to make sure it doesn't fall. But anyways, here we have the first of the lineup, which I'm pretty sure this is in the right order, because I'm pretty sure I organized this in the order that I took them out, that they were lined up in the plastic. Here we have Jonius, which is, you know, I think he's really solid when the green and such. Obviously, all of these are standard Blazar Stones and such. So, Jonius is B037. Next up, we have Neos, who is in this neat light blue. And like, I'll admit, he is kind of indistinguishable because I keep wanting to confuse him with Cosmos. But he is B045. Okay. And then obviously you can have Neos without 721. Which I think he's cast in the same yellow that 7 was in, so that's neat. 721 is, I think, one of the most interesting Ultras out there. Obviously, because he comes after Neos, he is B046. And then, for the first of these oddities, we have Tiga Sky-type. To which he is B050. But obviously, if you couldn't tell, it's just Tiga multi-type, but in blue now. So, this is power type from the apparel. And now here's Sky type. Then we have our next pair of oddities, which not as odd. Here is Xenon, who's in, I think this is orange, and not brown. Oops. Yeah, this is orange. To which, you know, it's cool to finally have something of Xenon, because I think this is the second time he got released in these sets, because I think the first time was that Dimension card, B078. Then, here we have Hikari, who's, again, I really like the blue cover they've always done, and such. And he is B084. 82, where did I get 4 from? The heck, it's because, oh gosh. So if you didn't think Tiga Sky type was baffling enough, here's where basically where they were trying to sell this set on. Here's the continuation of our power-up ultras, new gen power-up, or like strongest form stones. So here's Exceed X, and this is just Exceed X. I don't get why they chose green for him again, because the original X was already green. And I get that Exceed X utilizes the colors of the rainbow, but if you had to choose one, why would you choose green? It's just weird, and obviously it's unfortunate because Exceed X is one of the few forms that barely gets merchandise, and like, the few times it has, they've always changed up what color it is. So now it's green. He is B102. Because I think there was a gap between X and then Exceed X. Because again, the Blazar brace has a lot of random gaps. Here is Rube. To which I appreciate Rube being unique, but he's also in the confusing color tone. Because again, I have to say that's brown. But it's such a weird color. Or is this supposed to represent... It's not supposed to represent gold, because then they would have chosen orange. But Grigio is already orange. And if they wanted to do white, they would have just cleared it. Or they choose black for that stuff. B124. I'm talking for too long. Last but not least of this trio to finish up the strongest forms, Taiga Tristerium. To which he's pretty neat. And this one, I don't mind that he's red, because that's what his form primarily is. And he is B127. Haha. So to go off of the bafflingness of Tiga Sky type, here we have Trigger Power type. Yep. Because again, they just never got to it, and he is B138, so there's no need to compare. But here's Trigger's Sky type from Blazar Stone 07. So cool, you got all of Trigger's forms now. I forgot the name of this kaiju. I think it started with a D. Del. Oh. How long is this going to take me to go on the Ultra Wiki? Deltanda. Alright, this one looks interesting. And also, as you can see from here, this one uses the black cover. He is B163. And then, this one I think is a reasonable choice. Because this one's the mid-season one, and he has the green. Such. His name is... After we look at this, he is B162. So he comes before, but he was packed after. He is... Gebaga? Gebaga. Alright. Let's use these in the Blazar brace. So we'll use Jonius first. Cool. Standard Blazar brace standby. So there we have the sound, but we obviously don't have the animation for the rise. And in standard fashion of if you're not a privileged Ultra, you don't have a finisher. So obviously I'll note whenever a Ultra has more than one sound. Neos. If only I can actually just get on with it. Yep, just the one grunt. 7, 2, 1. Obviously, Tika Sky type will actually do stuff. We have the Spark Cleanse again. We have the type change sound, but then obviously because of how short it is, it overruns the animation. And we actually have an attack sound. But it's just the grunt and the attack sound. Xenon? What the heck? That's... Xenon doesn't have a transformation sound because he never had a host, so it's just him, like, rising in, I guess. But he has a grunt at least. Because I know his is just a deeper tone of Max's. Hikari? Isn't it surprising this is the first device in a while that... No, never mind, I'm wrong. I think it's been 3 years since Hikari has made a transformation device. Just the standard sounds we knew of Hikari at this point, but I don't mind it. First of the strongest new generation stones. This is still the same. Nice hearing that. I feel like they've always forgotten that Exceed X's grunts are lower or like pitched deeper. Obviously, he doesn't have a finisher. Rube. We have no voice lines. As you can see there, it uses the generic rise animation. But again, it's such a joy hearing Rube's transformation. However, it's just that. I apologize for not letting the Helix play through. Taiga, try Sternum. Sternum. Obviously, as you can tell, they just cut it to the Hiroyuki just saying, buddy, go. And speaking of that. So that is technically new, because I think beforehand it was just all in one, just like how Jeet and Taiga were the two that they made it all in one, while Zet got split into two. Trigger power type. Obviously, that was pulled out of the Hyper Key premium version. Premium Hyper Key. And just like Sky type, it doesn't have a finisher. But Tiga can have finishers. Onto our Kaiju stones. Traditional Kaiju stuff. Mon Kaiju cry. Gento saying this is the power of kaijus, or something of that vein. Obviously, we're just going to skip straight to this one. And we're going to skip the second sound. I apparently had to replace the battery because it wants to die already. So overall, my my thoughts on this set are pretty iffy, because I just don't get why they did this. Like, to weirdly put it. Like, it makes sense that there's a lot of backlog within this toy line and such. But I think the biggest issue is that the majority of these stones should have been released prior. If I had to, like, I think only like at least 5. I think only these 5 are valid in terms of like being within EX selection. And then everything else is like, really? You couldn't have released this elsewhere? Because it's just so much wasted slots, and honestly, like, it just brings up more questions, and I just don't know who this exactly who is this supposed to satisfy, because I think it was kind of weird that the entire marketing of this or promotion of this set was, oh hey, look, you can complete certain collections. And like, because Hikari, or like, Xenon and Hikari were stated to like, oh, whoa, you can pair them up with your Max and Mebu stones that were previously released. And then like, Tiga Sky type and Trigger Power type were used as like, oh hey, you can finish up your lineage or your lineup of Tiga and Trigger stones. Which is like, yeah, I guess it's cool, but at the same time, where are Decker's forms? Where is Strong type and Miracle type? Those two forms are programmed into this thing, but we got nothing. And then, obviously, Exceed X, Rube, and Taiga Tri-Stream were used. Oh hey, if you get this set, you can finish up your lineup, your random lineup of strongest forms of the new generation if you have previously gotten sets 5, 6, and 7. But then at the same time also it's just like, oh yeah, we'll also release 2 additional ones at Gashapon 4 and not include stuff like Shining Ultimate Zero and Trigger Truth. Yeah, makes sense, guys. Makes sense that Ginga and G get to have 2 more instead of 2 that actually would have made sense. And like, again, like everything, like Jonius, Neos, 721, and the 2 Kaijus, I think are valid. And same with Xenon and Hikari, like these 2 are not, or like the least offending, but like anything new generation or like just Tiga, like these should not have been here. Honestly, they should have. I've already ranted about this before, of just how I would have done these. I think these 2 should have been apparel exclusives to go alongside the Tiga power type. Because for some reason, it was weird that Blazar didn't do a second apparel exclusive. So they should have just boasted it and made it so that these 2 were the next 2, just to get them out of the way. And then, like, obviously, these 3, I think, including one of these kaijus, or honestly, they should have just released another kaiju alongside it and just made that Blazar Stone Set 08. Because, again, it's like, first of all, I think it's kind of sad that, like, even with this set, things still aren't finished. There's still a lot of unreleased stones, and I feel like, again, I'm unfulfilled with the kaijus that are still yet to be released, because it's like, I thought they would have at least tried to put out all of the Blazar original kaijus, but they barely did so, because for the majority of this toy line, they locked them in the candy toy line. And that was only 3. We got 3. And then, like, they started doing it in the, like, they started doing it a little bit in the, like, the DX lines. But then, like, Galvadon, I don't know if it counts. And we're not counting Earthgaron either, nor Nijigon or Garamon. Like, we're not counting things that are, like, form-based or, like, you know, allied-based. Like, so, like, technically, we've only gotten 5 of these things because the only other way to get kaiju stones was through the EX sets. But obviously, those were of kaijus that weren't in Blazar. So, it's just, like, it's just upsetting for a series that, like, strived on, oh, look, here are all of these new kaijus and such. Like, yes, you can get your fulfillment through the vinyls and such. But I mean, in terms of the Blazar brace, where's the representation? It's so upsetting. And again, like what I said before, oh jeez. I don't mind the inclusion of the stands. Did I grab it correctly? I think so. I don't mind the inclusion of the stands, but personally, the only reason I feel that they're unnecessary here is because they weren't established beforehand. If they probably like released them in the Gashapon line, I think it would have been okay. But I get that these are probably a bit too big and costly to pack them in Gashapon, unlike the Ultra Metals. But I don't know. It's just like I feel like they're not as sleek as the Ultra Metal ones and such. And again, like I feel like they were only compelled to put them out or put them with this set to make it more premium, and because the diecast set was also released alongside this. But the diecast set makes sense because that's supposed to be a display piece. You're not supposed to use those things in this thing because you can't. And like I don't know, like as opposed to like the previous like EX selections we've gotten, especially from Trigger, like where Triggers was actually like, oh hey, here are things people were asking for, or things that we kind of know that we should finish up, and it was actually fulfilling. And that's the same with Zets too. We will cover Zets in like 2 weeks or so, because I think I think for this I have to do review demo, but like Zets was also pretty neat in terms of selection. It's just that you had to get the updated version of the Zet Riser to actually use them, but like other than that, it was actually a pretty cool selection. Also, because I think it had four. I think I'm losing my voice. I think it also had four more than this set because of the fact. Well, the thing is that because the Zet set was Gashapon, it came with the stand still, but it didn't like feel diminished. Because I think the Zet set is like the true definition of like EX selection. Like, yeah, it's filled with characters that people mostly don't care for, but at the same time, it's like, oh, they actually went through the effort of putting these characters. They went through the effort of actually programming these characters and such. And for this, it's just like I would have preferred that same treatment. Where's USA? Where's Yulian? Where's Ultra Father and Ultra Mother? Where's King? Like, those are practically like the only few Ultras left. Because I think again, I've already said Decker's type forms or like type changes too, but like I think other than that, like we do basically like they did basically like flesh out all the necessities, but we're just missing like that big gap at the beginning, and it's just like I feel like we either could have gotten another set, which I think they should have just done, because if Decker can have two prop sets, why can't Blazar have two stone sets, like EX stone sets? Or like was before, like they should have just been smarter of what was already what should have been released, or like what they should have been pushing out and such. Because I think that's definitely another detriment of this series if I didn't already rant about that in Gashapon 4. Like, I felt like the series kind of didn't really. It was trying. Like, obviously, Bandai wanted to try. I just felt like they were really backwards with marketing. Because it's just like. Yes, they were probably upset that they couldn't. Toyeify. That's not a word. They couldn't make Blazar the show as toyetic as they wanted it to, as the camera overheats. But isn't that why you do that with the toy line and such? Like, that's what I don't get. Like, Bandai themselves weren't doing their jobs, and yet they're upset at Subaraya and forcing them to be like, oh well, like we're barely gonna like under budget you, so you're gonna have to choose to either have full on form changes or like more kaijus for arc, because it's just like Bandai. That's why you do your job and push these toys out. Again, I thought it just didn't make sense, for example, that like Blazar ended off in like such an odd number in terms of like the retail Blazar Stones. And like, because again, we could have gotten it. I think it would have been better if we got an eighth set. Because of that, because like if you look at other lines prior, they've ended on even numbers. I'm pretty sure. Didn't Orb end on even numbers, or didn't Orb end evenly? I don't remember. Because I know the Ultraman Zero versus Kaiser Belial set was. I don't want to say that was an EX set, because the EX sets were Orb or for Orb the Chronicle. like, it, I just don't get why Bandai is not, like, trying to, like, push out these gimmicks as heavily as they used to. Because, like, I think Jeet was probably the most they pushed sets out. I think Jeet had 8 sets, and like 2 of them were strictly kaijus or kaijins. And it's like, I think Blazar would have benefited from that. And like the thing too, I think I've already said, I don't remember what I've ranted about with set 4 back in February. Again, it's July, but like I don't get the whole. I'm not asking them to push out more EX sets because I think they did fine in terms of like EX sets, though they wasted one. Like I think that's the weird thing too with Blazar, even though it has nothing to do with this at this point. But it's just like I don't get why they every time there's like a special variant of a Blazar stone, they don't take the opportunity of actually making it like meaningful. Like the one for the CD, for example. It's just luminescent color. It's just translucent. It doesn't actually trigger anything new. And then you look at the Ultra Heroes, or like the Ultra Heroes Expo one, which is supposed to be like the glitter version of Blazar, but it doesn't do anything special. And then you look at what they did for the movie. They put out 3 new stones for the movie, but they all do the same thing as like their DX counterparts. It's just like, guys, you have a sound dedicated to Ultra Heroes Expo and Geki Joban. Why don't you use these sounds? Why is it up to the EX set for new generation stars that they finally remembered, oh hey, we can use this track for the Blazar Stone? And it's like, okay, yeah, I will get both of these sets for this one new Blazar Stone. Like, why is it this thing that gets a new sound, but not all these special limited versions that you do? It's like you don't want people to actually go for it. Or, like, I guess it's for those collectors that want, like, variants, but it's just like, wouldn't you want your variants to actually function differently from one another as opposed to just being, as opposed to an aesthetic reason? But, like, as for this set, like, it's just like, this is the worst EX selection we've gotten. I hope they can redeem themselves. But I don't think they're going to go back on the Blazar toy line because at this point they're going to just keep cranking up because of the fact they're back to doing sound gimmicks. They're just going to crank out the new generation again through the art cubes and such and just basically do the Guts Hyperkey Premium line again, but then just rename it under the art cubes. And they're going to obviously get a lot of money out of that by just milking out the same thing. And yet we're going to have to buy it again because we have to like cover the little differences. And because, you know, the sword breeds them, so obviously you have to do it that way. Come on. I was almost done. Because I don't remember how much the set cost on Tote Collectibles. I hope they didn't sell it for over 100, because it's not worth it. This set, because in yen, this is only like 4,800. So it's only about like $40, so it's not that expensive, which is the good thing. But it's more of like... It's more of like... It's not... It is an extra selection, but not like completely, because it still has like necessary stones. Like, I mean, like for me personally, like I prefer like an EX selection to be a balance between like, oh yeah, here are some like things that you probably didn't want, but like we just want to include it because, and just, oh hey, like here's this thing to like be the main seller and such. In my opinion, like this set just doesn't have a main seller, because again, I think they're trying to use the new generation strongest stones as the main sellers, but it's like, no. Because it's just like, you can't just, like, these can't be the main sellers because these have already been established in the retail line. You just didn't want to bother completing them, because instead, like I said before, you just gave us 2 new ones in Gashapon. So, this is just not a good set, but like it's cheap, and it like it's not that like it doesn't hurt much. Like, it's just offending. And like, you know, like it doesn't fill any holes because it fills up holes that should have already been filled. Because again, like the only things that were actually worthwhile in this set were Jonius, Neos 721, Xenon, and Hikari. But even then, like Jonius and Hikari, you could have argued should have already been at release 2. So like, this is not like, I mean, like, it's not a bad set technically, but at the same time, it's just like, it's just baffling. Why did they do this? Like, what did they think they were going to get out of this? Like, if they can redeem themselves with a second set and actually feel more complete, then I think the Blazar toy line can be redeemed. So then I won't be considered an apologist.